I'm looking at Bitcoin today, and Bitcoin, let me bring it onto the screen for folks. If you're following Bitcoin, take a look at this. We're looking at somewhere around 68,000. 68,000, wow, up 752% just in the past 5 years. Now, Rob, there's something that's really specific to Trump when it comes to Bitcoin. Walk us through sort of the Bitcoin story as it relates to Donald Trump.
Well, he's really increasingly open to the industry, the crypto industry, and to Bitcoin. He made the appearance at the big Bitcoin conference earlier this year. I think he's very open-minded to it. I think a lot of the people who are part of his campaign or who will be part of his administration are, coming from kind of the venture capital background and the technology background, have probably had some influence on him, because I think, several years ago, he was more skeptical of it. But I think a lot of people actually have really changed their tune and kind of evolved their perspective on Bitcoin specifically as they've gotten to learn more about it. Mm-hmm. And, as it becomes more of a kind of an inevitability globally, like it's almost beyond the control of government to stop it, or any single government to stop it, because it's a global asset class, a global phenomenon. I think you see more of an idea of like, well, if you can't fight it, join it, or mm-hmm. The idea of kind of leveraging crypto and the growth of this industry, similar to AI, and taking advantage of it and making sure that the U.S. is kind of aligned with it or benefits from it, or the regulation works for us, rather than make it into an enemy.
Yeah. I want to go to a quick clip here. We have Donald Trump becoming the first president to make any kind of payment actually in Bitcoin. This was live in New York.
I'm here. I'm just going to scan this QR code here with this phone if you want to take that from them. Scan that QR code up here. Take pictures. Oh, right there. Right there. Just that one. Slight technical difficulty.
All right. And fantastic, it went through.
So he's embracing technology, and this is kind of,
All right, we're done. Perfect. The first transaction by a president on the Bitcoin protocol. History.
You know what that means? It's history. History of the making. Hello, everybody. I got to go back and see those people.
All right, let's go.
Come on.
Right this way.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you, everybody.
Sir, what's your reaction to the Fed cutting interest rates today?
I guess it shows the economy is very bad.
So that was from a couple of weeks ago, and Donald Trump, they're making an appearance at a Bitcoin sort of, dare I say, rally. It's a Bitcoin bar. They're taking Bitcoin as a means of transaction. But listen, I think in some ways it's more than that. It's more, how would you describe, I don't necessarily see it as a transactional sort of currency in the same kind of way as I do see it as like a store of value. Is that a fair characterization? Curious on your thoughts on it too, because I look at other versions of blockchain, and I look at Ethereum, for example, which, we were just talking about Polymarket. That's actually how they settle their trades on the Ethereum blockchain. So as we think about the derivatives market, the futures market moving forward, it's entirely possible that things like Ethereum might be used to try and settle some of those contracts and those trades. But Bitcoin's blockchain is a little bit different. Walk me through sort of how you think about the difference between the two.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin is,
and I like
setting
both, by
up.
The way.
Well, and in addition to Ethereum and to some of these other emerging digital currencies, there are also all of these kind of networks that are kind of built upon the different layers. So you could have Bitcoin, really being used as like a store of value for larger transactions, and then you have kind of technology that's built upon it. Even, our existing digital payments infrastructures like the Visa and MasterCards could evolve to where, they're sort of processing these like small micro transactions, but, off of a base of, Bitcoin as the base currency. So, no, I think you're right though. Bitcoin's not really designed so much for, millions and millions of high volume, small transactions. It's more, to provide a stable store of value, and perhaps for larger secure transactions.
Here on this channel and also on the Trish Regan show, we've got Michael Saylor coming on next week, actually next Thursday, so almost a week from today. Michael Saylor, for those of you that don't know, I mean, he's sort of like the Bitcoin god, right? Because he made a big bet on Bitcoin back in the summer of 2020. And he really saw it as a store of value and continues to see it as the most efficient store of value. Rob and I are fortunate because we heard him speak actually recently in New York City at a conference. I introduced him, and I've been fascinated by this space forever. I remember when it was $10. I remember being in a bar. It was called EVR, a bar in New York City 12 years ago, when they took the very first transaction. So Donald Trump is the first president to transact in Bitcoin. I was there the very first time they actually had a Bitcoin transaction. So, we share that in common. Look, I'm fascinated by it, and I think it is very much part of the future. And it's not necessarily like, this or gold or this. I actually like them both. I know you do too. But I think that as we move forward, it's going to become an increasingly attractive, albeit still volatile space, which is why it's somewhat hard to be like, okay, this is my pure store of value. If it is, you got to be willing to weather the ups and downs in a really kind of wild way.
Yeah. Yeah, there's certainly risk, and I think there's a lot to the symbolism of Trump being in that bar, because it shows, it's not just kind of a cute campaign pit stop. It's really kind of signaling that Bitcoin is becoming a variable in our elections and in our politics. And that's very important, because really what we need to see with Bitcoin, and we're kind of seeing it with the ETFs, and for Bitcoin to really thrive, it needs to be more broadly adopted. And for it to be more broadly adopted, it needs kind of political and regulatory support. And we're seeing it's really getting it, because actually the voters own Bitcoin.